Listen, we need to examine Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, because it's an interesting movie. I personally don't like it, but this is a different kind of review for that reason. We're going to take a look at Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and look at why I think it's a really bad movie, and what makes it not great. So, the most obvious thing that we have to start out with is, I think, all the cameos. The cameos don't add a single thing to this movie, except the main characters, being Peter Pan, Chip and Dale, of course, the Rescue Rangers themselves, and the one polar bear that works for Peter Pan, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be the Coca-Cola polar bear. Here is a list of all the cameos in this movie. Mind you, only 2 of these actually contribute anything to this plot. So, Three Little Pigs, MC Scat Cat and Paula Abdul, Roger Rabbit, Lumiere, Ugly Sonic. I don't get the Ugly Sonic thing, because the reason that Ugly Sonic was taken from the Sonic movies because it looked bad, and then you intentionally put it in this movie because it looked bad. Why would you do that? Baloo, the live-action Baloo, which I know the live-action Baloo is not that good, but, I liked live-action Jungle Book, but the live-action Baloo is not the classic one. I'm not sure why they didn't put the classic one, but I kinda am glad that they didn't, because, like Peter Pan, that would have damaged the character. I have no idea who this is. I'm pretty sure she's from a video game, Tigra. Flounder, he's, what starts the little plot that there is. Pumbaa, Batman, E.T., Mrs. Doubtfire, Cats, Wreck-It Ralph, Cops, Phineas and Ferb Mom, Cars, Shrek, Rapunzel, Peter Pan. So, in the movie, Peter Pan is old and fat and kind of washed up. That is disgraceful to the character of Peter Pan. Because Peter Pan is supposed to be a wonderful child, and he's supposed to be the kid that never grows. That's the whole point of his character, is that he never grows up. And to millions and millions of people around the world, that Peter Pan might be their favorite character is because of that reason, that he never grows up, and that he has these fantastical adventures. But this, Disney has to act meta, and by meta I mean being aware and fourth wall breaking. In this world, animated characters live and are actors. So he is conscious of the fact that he is from a movie, and he says after the movie they just kind of let him grow because he grew up. That destroys everything that Peter Pan is supposed to be about, and that's something that Disney as a corporation should not be looking at. A lot of things in this movie is something that fans think are funny, and they can make, knockoff t-shirts or whatever of them, but the Disney company should not be making movies about this, or they should not be joking about this, because it looks wrong. The same company that made a movie like Peter Pan that is adored by millions across the world are then making fun of that character this way. It's one of the problems that I had with this movie, and then Disney tweeted out and said that this is a love letter animation. Yeah, the same movie that is making fun of Disney movies, that's like saying Shrek is a love letter to Disney movies. And speaking of, Shrek was in this movie. Lego is in it, Peppa Pig is mentioned, Nick Jr. is mentioned, Paw Patrol is mentioned. I'm not sure how they got all these rights to these to even be in or mentioned. I'm pretty sure the Coca-Cola Bear was in it. The South Park is in it. Jiminy Cricket is in it. Sneezy is in it. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Garfield. The Simpsons. Rick and Morty. Ren and Stimpy. Jimmy Neutron. Paul Rudd makes a cameo. My Little Pony, Pickle Rick, He-Man, Indiana Jones, Borat, Joker, Miguel from Coco, Doc McStuffins, and Pete. So, oh, sorry. Aladdin is referenced, Pooh is referenced, and Zummy Gummy from the Adventures of the Gummy Bears show. There's multiple times where the Rescue Rangers are, are reflected upon, of course, because it's a Rescue Rangers movie. But there's one point in this movie and one whole scene where it is just filled with nostalgia. And the only reason that this scene is in the movie is because they want adults to remember the Rescue Rangers. If you wanted to remember the Rescue Rangers, why don't you just create a movie that is somewhat connected to the Rescue Rangers? I wrote this in here. We don't get a shot with all the Rescue Rangers in frame until an hour and 25 minutes in. That is how long. And that is right before the movie ends. Gadget doesn't even come in until 1 hour and 9 minutes. So, this is not a reboot. This is not a Rescue Rangers movie. This is not Chip and Dale that's in this movie. I don't know what this is. Let's get to the animation and voice acting, because that is something that is not good in this movie also. The animation is rough looking, especially in the beginning, with the 2D cartoons. It's just something off. I don't know what it is. I guess, I don't know, Roger Rabbit did this better, so I'm not quite sure how that's possible. It's just, it's weird looking. And then it does get better throughout the movie, but the animation is not good. And then it's also made worse that Dale was saying about how he's had the 3D, what did he say? The 3D treatment or whatever. Again, Disney trying to be meta. Disney cannot be meta. I don't know what it is with their writers. They cannot do this. They can be funny, they can write jokes, but the jokes in this movie, almost all of them miss. So, it just comes off weird when it's kind of supposed to be a detective kind of thing, and then, of course, there's going to be comedy in it, because it's a half-kids movie, even though I'm pretty sure it's not a kids movie, but it's a half-kids movie. Of course there's going to be comedy in it. But when it's paired with the awful fourth wall breaking, and things that don't even make sense to, first, the plot of the movie, and second, the world of the movie doesn't even make sense. When you tell jokes about that, and then constantly remind us of better things in the studio's history, it's not good. Oh, and then when you also make jokes about bad movies, and then this one being it just doesn't pair well. Let's talk about the world building for a little bit, or the world that this takes place in. So, Chip and Dale, according to this, met in 1982. That doesn't make sense, because Chip and Dale, as a lot of you know, have been making cartoons since the 1940s? No, probably even 1920s, maybe. Not quite, I'm not that big of a Chip and Dale fan, so I don't know off the top of my head. There were a couple good scenes, couple funny scenes. The Main Street scene, where you see, it doesn't make any sense, but the Muppet, that is like part of this gang that I'll explain when I talk about the plot. That was pretty funny, because I don't know why it's funny, it just kind of is. It's funny to see, like, I don't know, I guess it was funny to see, like, a Disney black market. And the plot itself, I wrote this down, because I honestly would forget it. The plot is that Dale left, and that's how Rescue Rangers got canceled. That is not true. actually, Rescue Rangers got canceled because Disney Channel used to have a thing where they would run shows for 3 seasons, no matter how popular they were, and then cancel them after three seasons. It was called the 3-season rule. And then years after, Monterey Jack gets taken by Peter Pan to be bootlegged, and a lot of tunes have gone missing, and they've gotten bootlegged and forced to make bootleg movies. Again, the plot makes zero sense, and the plot is kind of dark. That's why, honestly, this is not a kids movie, because the plot is a dark plot that I don't think a lot of kids would get. And I don't think the kids will find it as funny as adults. And it's just weird that a Chip and Dale movie is not targeted towards kids, instead targeted to adults. Because there were a lot more darker scenes than they were cheerful scenes. It's just kind of strange that that's the target audience that they went for, and not actual kids, because Rescue Rangers is a kids show. That's why the nostalgia bait is so weird and off in this movie. The plot is stupid. It literally makes no sense. Like, I guess it's just like all the stuff that I research, I can't separate it. At least just for me, is that it makes zero sense that Peter Pan is mad because he got kicked to the curb, per se, because he grew up, when they literally made a Peter Pan 2. Like, like they just ignore the fact that they made a second Peter Pan years later, after Peter Pan was released, but they ignored Chip and Dale, and that Peter Pan gets more backstory than the actual Chip and Dale, and he's there. It's explained more his backstory than the main characters of the actual thing, and it'll never make sense. Oh, I forgot to talk about the cringy moment. But there's a scene where I'm pretty sure this character doesn't even have a name, but he's like a snake that like does Disney Afternoon like remixes. It's never really explained what he does fully, or maybe I just didn't catch it, because at this point I was just kind of over the movie. He makes Chip and Dale do a rap, and it's just kind of like, okay, what is the point of this? Is he a villain? Is he not? It's just kind of like in there. A lot of things are in this movie just kind of in there for no reason. And again, there it is. Funny haha moment with adults that, grew up watching the show. It's funny to see childhood animation rapping. It's not funny. I wasn't going to do this, but I guess I should give this movie a rating. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It's being compared to Space Jam 2. It's nothing like Space Jam 2. Space Jam 2 actually was a movie. It was nostalgia bait, but not to the level that this was. Space Jam 2 just kind of had cameos that were bad, don't get me wrong. Space Jam 2 is not a good movie, but it just kind of was like off to the side. This makes a conscious effort at some points to put as many characters on screen that as possible. Like, there's this one point where Seth Rogen has a whole, three of his characters are on screen at the same time. I won't spoil it, but 3 of his characters are on screen at the same time. And the whole point of that scene is to just flex that they got the rights to these characters. And second, funny haha Seth Rogen moment. And it's just kind of like that scene doesn't do anything. But with like Space Jam 2, a lot of the cameos are just like in the background in the basketball game. This, it's more noticeable, and that's what makes this movie not a Rescue Rangers movie, and instead makes it a nostalgia bait movie. So, sorry about that little rant. I know my arguments in this video is not going to be very good, but I just needed to Twitter tweets were not going to put this. We're not going to justify my thoughts on this movie. So 3 out of 10. It's bad. Probably the worst movie I've seen all year. Probably maybe even the worst movie I've seen ever. And I know that's strong, but I will probably never watch this movie again. Unless it's like in a call. But even then, there's not a lot of movies that like I despise to that point that I'll probably never watch again. Anyway, if you enjoyed this this rant, let me know by leaving a like and consider subscribing. It would make me a very happy man. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Have a magical day, everybody.